biggest study, in my opinion, in the last 10 years in modern medicine got almost no attention.
Really?
It's done by the Mayo Clinic, along with this guy, Marty, who I think is the world expert on the microbiome. I interviewed him for the book Blind Spots. And they took kids who had received antibiotics in the first 2 years of life and compared them to kids that were roughly matched to children who did not receive antibiotics in the first 2 years of life. And in this study of about 14,000 kids, they found that kids who took antibiotics, which are known to sort of carpet bomb the microbiome, especially in the first couple of years of life when the microbiome is forming, that kids who took antibiotics in the first 2 years of life had a 20% higher rate of obesity, 21% higher rate of learning disabilities, 32% higher rate of attention deficit disorder, 90% increased incidence of asthma, and a 289% increased risk of celiac.
Wow.
Something is happening. All these chronic diseases are going up in the modern era of antibiotics. I'm not saying 100% it was cause and effect, but this is a signal in the data. And the kicker in the study, the more courses of antibiotics you took as a child, the greater the likelihood of these chronic diseases.
Wow. Wow. So do you see antibiotics? There's obviously some miraculous discovery that happened with Fleming and penicillin, and the use of antibiotics has saved lives. But where we're at now, how can we use this technology for what it is? It can be helpful, but also understand that there are two sides to this coin where we're, what'd you say, nuking the
Carpet bombing
microbiome.
the
Microbiome.
Yeah, and then you get overgrowth of some bacteria, like maybe the more pro-inflammatory bacteria can overgrow. We've seen in adults, they take a little simple amoxicillin for some dumb thing, maybe where they didn't need to take it. And then their C. diff bacteria, which is a type of bacteria in their colon, will overgrow after that bacteria kills some and cause C. diff colitis. People die from it. There's like 30,000 deaths a year of people dying from this overgrowth of C. diff after taking a simple antibiotic.
Wow.
And the irony is the latest treatment that medicine has discovered is that you can actually give these people with C. diff colitis bacteria, an enema or a pill, and that will actually restore. It's essentially a probiotic. And we used to operate and take out the colon when it was infected because no antibiotic would work on it. Again, antibiotics save lives, but 60% that are prescribed are unnecessary, according to a study. And Alexander Fleming himself, the guy who discovered penicillin, after he got the Nobel Prize in the 1940s, he issued a stern warning, which has been largely forgotten, about the overuse of antibiotics, breeding resistance, causing overgrowth, and having effects that we may not understand. One of those effects may be altering the microbiome and inducing chronic diseases. So you add all these modern things, overuse of C-sections, overuse of antibiotics, people coming in with, recurrent little infections in childhood and they get just antibiotics thrown at them. What are we doing to the microbiome? That's a question no one has ever asked because we didn't know about the role of the microbiome. So people were living with this dogma in modern medicine that, these antibiotics, you might as well just take them. Probably not going to help, but they won't hurt you. Well, actually, we're learning a lot about what it does to the microbiome.
It's so interesting. I feel like we've gotten to the point where we're sterilizing a lot of we're living in a very sterilized world where a lot of people are afraid of germs, just think germs are bad, and they don't even realize that there's good bacteria out there that can promote health and longevity and your immune system. So I feel like there is this turning point in understanding what bacteria is, but do you feel like that is something that we've missed, just understanding what bacteria is and how its role within the body?
Great question. I think we have not been able to study the microbiome because how do you study 1 billion different bacteria? DNA genetic sequencing done rapidly has enabled us to do that research relatively recently. So for the first time now, we can take a sample of bacteria from the gut and say, here are the 100,000 different bacteria by their genome, and then we can go back and describe them. And there's now research at Harvard where they're saying, oh, you've got an allergy. It may be because you're low in this one type of bacteria, and we're going to try to supplement now with that bacteria. Right now, probiotics are very hard to navigate because the popular ones are the ones with the best marketing, and they come and go, and the research can't keep up. And, the old belts and suspenders professors at the NIH are not funding research on probiotics.
Right.
Very much. I mean, there's a little microbiome center. And there's like no place in medical school where people are talking about the microbiome or even, nutrition. I think you get more training on pronouns